Well, I don't know how to start this thing, because what I had in mind when we started this thing was probably not exactly what you had in mind.
That's the way it is with the world always. What happens when two people get married?
Then they have to discover each other afterwards.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about your situation with your trial and the trouble you had with the Un-American Activities Committee, mainly. But
Well, I'm perfectly willing to discuss it, but at the same time, I'm not much of a discusser. And for safety's sake, I think I rely more on the singing I do. Most everything I've ever believed in or ever tried to do or say has come out in the songs I've sung at some time or other. There's thousands of different kind of songs that people who sing folk songs just naturally run into, and you can pick and choose from them the ones you like and find that they tell your story often better than you can
on your own words.
In your own words. Right here in the Hudson Valley, where we live, there's a lot of wonderful songs which apply to my own situation. Across the river from where I live, in Newburgh, around 225 years ago, there was a boy. His parents were Palatine Germans. They'd come here, but he decided he wanted to go down and live in this big city of New York. I suppose it wasn't as big as Kingston in those days.
Probably not.
1734, he was a printer, published a little newspaper, and his name was John Peter Zenger.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason he got thrown in jail by the king's governor was not just what he printed in his newspaper. It's true he was an American patriot, and some of the things he printed were not favorable to the governor. But one of the main reasons they were after him was that he'd been writing songs which were sold on the streets, little broadsides.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a person go up and down the street with a penny song sheet. And one of these songs was given me by a man in the New York Public Library, and I thought it so cute I tried to record it. It's called To You Fair Lads, To You Good Lads That Dare Oppose. To you good lads that dare oppose. You see, the patriots had run for election in opposition to the governor, and a whole batch of them had been elected. And this song was in praise of the people who had voted for them, as well as those who had dared to run on a slate of opposition to the king. The song was printed up by John Peter Zenger, but he didn't list himself as author. Felt that would be a little too risky. And the next thing, there was a proclamation by the governor for the arrest of the author, if he could be found, of this scurrilous and seditious ballad. And here it is. To you good lads that dare oppose all lawless power and might, you are the theme that we have chose, and to your praise we write. You dared to show your faces brave, in spite of every abject slave, with a fa-la-la-la-la-la-la. Your votes you gave for those brave men who feasting did despise, and never prostituted pen to certify the lies that were drawn up to put in chains, as well our nymphs as happy swains, with the fa-la-la-la-la-la-la. What though the great ones frown at this? What have you need to care? Why, let them fret and talk amiss, you'll show you bravely dare. Stand up to save your country dear, in spite of us for bar and beer, and with la-la-la-la-la-la. Incidentally, all that fa-la-la business, I suppose it seems corny to us nowadays, but it was just the standard thing.
Traditional at the time.
In those days, every other song was full of fa-la-las. Yeah. Oh, another thing should be explained. It talks about usquebaugh and beer. Usquebaugh was the old Gaelic word for aqua vitae, and it later on became our word whiskey.
That's the eau de vie. That's the
usquebaugh.
Yeah. Where do you stand exactly now, Pete, as far as your
right now, I am convicted
troubles?
of contempt of Congress. I've been sentenced to 1 year in jail and have to pay court costs, but I'm out on bail, as I have been for years, and I'm waiting appeal. Now, there are 3 judges who will hear my appeal, which is now set in for April. I don't have much to do. The lawyers joust down there. The prosecuting attorney, the young fellow, about 28 years old, working for the Justice Department of Washington.
Full of zeal, no doubt.
Well, I think it's his first case, and he was quite glad to win it.
Make something out of it.
And I have a man who I admire highly. He was one of Mayor LaGuardia's assistants back in the 1930s. His name is Paul Ross, and he will be stating my case. And there will be 3 judges will hear them, and of course no one knows exactly what will happen, although the history of such cases as mine is that very often they're thrown out of court in the appeals, not for any constitutional reason, but often for some other technicality. Due process was not observed or something like that. This is what happened to the playwright Arthur Miller. You remember that he ran afoul in exactly the same way as I did, and similarly was convicted in the lower courts, but then he was acquitted, or his case was dismissed, I don't know how they describe it, in the appeals court. Same thing happened to Dr. Otto Nathan, who's an old economist professor who was a close friend of Albert Einstein, the scientist, and when Einstein died he named Dr. Nathan as the executor of his will. Dr. Nathan also ran afoul of the same committee, and as a matter of fact he today is chairman in New York of what do you call it? Well, these names. New York Committee to Abolish the House Un-American Activities Committee. I wish that somehow names could be shortened.
Yeah. Tell me something. I've heard, of course, and read in the papers about all these things, but I never find out exactly what did they reproach you. How did the whole thing start?
Well, all these cases have certain similarities. They ask the person, are you a member of the Communist Party? Were you ever a member of the Communist Party? They say, did you know so-and-so? They'll give the name of somebody who is supposed to have been a member of the Communist Party. Did you know them? Did you ever appear at such and such a place, which might have been supposed to be a communist school, or somebody had said it was a communist school? And or did you write this article for this publication, which is supposed to be a communist publication? Or if the person is a performer, they say, did you perform at this following place? It was a party or a rally or something like that, or a picket line. And the person has to either answer all the questions that the committee asks or answer practically none of them. You don't have any choice there.
Actually.
Because once you start answering, the law says you have to keep on answering. And so about 99 out of 100 people who get called up before this committee usually refuse to answer. Now, some of them may have been communists, some of them may have been friendly to communism at some time, some of them may have been pacifists or radicals of some sort, but 99 out of 100 refuse to cooperate with this committee. Their reputations are blackened, but they feel they'd rather do that than cooperate with the committee. And this is an interesting thing to see why, and I think the reason is very clear. These people, whether they're pacifists or radicals or conservatives or communists or what, nearly all of them agree that this is basically not the way American freedom has been built. If somebody's done something wrong, you haul them up in court and you prosecute them. And
but this is a sort of a sneaky
this is like a kangaroo court. You see, you can, by asking questions, you can put almost anybody in this world on the spot.
Yeah.
Asking them personal questions about their private life, whether it's...
and confusing the issues.
That's right. Instead of actually accusing someone of saying that they've done something wrong, they start asking insinuating questions which almost you couldn't answer it yes or no without giving a wrong answer.
When did you stop eating? Why?
A little bit like that. Yeah. You see, supposing there's some person who has already been, has their name blackened in the press, and they say, do you know so-and-so? Mm-hmm. Now you might think that this person has been unjustly blackened in the press. You think, well, he may have done something wrong, but he wasn't that bad as the press makes him out. But if I say I know him, well, right away I'm going to be as bad as he is. And if I say I know him, but maybe I even disapprove of him, but I don't want to go into the details of why I disapprove of him.
Yeah. Which might have nothing to do with politics anyway.
That's right. So what I said to this committee, I made a blanket statement at the beginning of their questioning me. I said, I've never done anything conspiratorial. I've never sung anything conspiratorial, nor supported any cause conspiratorial in any way. Well, that was a pretty broad statement to make. If they wanted to get me on it, I should think they would have tried.
But that's not what they accuse. They don't
no,
accuse you of being a communist.
Well, what they did, Congressman Walter of Pennsylvania got in front of the TV cameras and said, I am going to conduct an investigation of the communist conspiracy in the entertainment business. And he asked questions of about 30 people. I was just one of them, during a 4-day period, 1955 in New York City. Well, if he thought I had anything to do with any conspiracy, he should have challenged my statement.
Then, yeah.
Right then. He didn't even question it. He simply brushed it aside. But I wouldn't let him brush it aside. Every time he asked me some question, I'd simply said, same answer. Mm-hmm. And this went on for about an hour. Do you know so-and-so? I said, same answer. Were you here? He showed me a picture of someone. Is this you? Mm. I got him mad at one time. I didn't really mean to say anything that would sound flippant, but some people thought I was being flippant. I said, this is like when they asked Jesus, are you king of the Jews?
Yeah.
Oh, and he said, here, we'll have none of that. Well, this, to my mind, is the classic case of a person refusing to either affirm or deny something. Because if Jesus had said, no, I am not king of the Jews, he would have felt that was an incorrect statement. He felt he was, after all, king of all mankind, as the Son of God. If he'd said, yes, I am, why, it would imply that he thought he was the temporal ruler, mm-hmm. And opposing himself to Roman temporal authority. So the only way he could honestly answer that, yes or no, well, yes or no would have been wrong, is to avoid answering it. So his answer was, thou sayest it. And in a similar way, that's what I and many others have done with this committee. We're saying, well, you can say what you want. We're not going to cooperate with your questioning. However, I've already talked longer than I should have. I feel I'm far luckier than most. There are many other people questioned by this committee who've lost their jobs and
ruined their career.
That's right.
And very often their personal life as well, and their family.
But I'm very lucky. I still keep on singing, mostly in schools and colleges.
My little girl wanted me to tell you that she wears that button of yours. Keep him singing.
Oh my God. And the most important thing I can do in this world is not try and spout off my own half-baked ideas as they come to my head, but simply sing as good music as I know how. We have thousands of wonderful songs in America, and I'd rather people just continue singing them. I'm not even just playing my records. It's a record is a fine thing, but and books are good things too. But more important than either records or books are people. And I'm sorry when I think of the millions of loudspeakers, TV sets, think of them in America, where good, honest people are sitting down in front of them, hypnotized. They look at that little screen, and instead of trying to
do something,
instead of trying to do anything themselves, they watch somebody else do it. The idea is you don't try and participate in sports and have fun playing some sport or anything. You watch an expert. Mm-hmm. You don't have to be an athlete. You watch an expert athlete. You don't even be witty. You watch an expert wit. Mm-hmm. And of course, the crowning and ridiculous thing in millions of American homes is the idea of husband and wife sitting back on the couch with their eyes glued to the screen, and there's the expert lover in the screen pretending to make expert love to another expert lover, and they're just sitting there watching. So whenever
That's pretty sad when you're right to that point.
It's pretty sad. The thing I hope most is that young people are learning how to play music. Doesn't matter exactly what kind, as long as they like it and are trying to make as good music as they know how. But if they want to play guitars and banjos, they can learn a lot of the songs that I sing and have fun with them themselves. Some of the songs may come from the South, wonderful banjo tunes, some of the best I ever learned. come from down there. Here, put on one of the records I have. I think it's a medley of banjo tunes. I hope it has Old Ann Tucker in it.
Tucker's a fine old man, washed his face in a frying pan, combed his hair with a wagon wheel, died with a toothache in his heel. Get out the way, old Dan Tucker, you're too late to get your supper. Get out the way, old Dan Tucker, you're too late to get your supper. Come to town, riding the billy goat, leading the hound. The hound dog barked, the billy goat jumped, landed old Tucker on top of a stump. Get out the way, old Dan Tucker, you're too late to get your supper. Get out the way, old Dan Tucker, you're too late to get your supper. He got drunk, he fell in the fire and he kicked up a chunk. A red hot coal got in his shoe and oh my lord, how the ashes flew. Get out the way, old Dan Tucker, you're too late to get your supper. Get out the way, old Dan Tucker, you're too late to get your supper. Now Dan Tucker's come to town, swinging the ladies round and round, first to the right and then to the left and then to the gal that he loves best. Get out the way, old Dan Tucker, you're too late to get your supper. Get out the way, old Dan Tucker, you're too late to get your supper. Get out the way, old Dan Tucker, you're too late to get your supper. Get out the way, old Dan Tucker, you're too late to get your supper.
That tune, Old Dan Tucker, get out the way, old Dan Tucker, you're too late to get your supper, was actually on the hit parade, you know. It was in 1844. It was along with the big interest in the banjo. The banjo previous to that time had been a much scorned instrument of southern Negro slaves. Then it swept America just like rock and roll music did in the 1840s. And this song, Old Dan Tucker, was the hit of year 1844. Oh Susanna was the hit in 1848. Old Dan Tucker was so popular that people picked it up all over the country and would put new verses to it.
Oh yes, I found one from the Down Rent War,
You
which
know
is
it?
also, I don't know the song, but I've seen it.
I don't think I've made a record of it, but it seems
On
that
the
somewhere in,
thing,
in Delaware County there was a much hated high sheriff who was evicting the tenant farmers because they wouldn't pay their rent to these enormous landlords, like one man, Stephen Van Rensselaer III.
Oh, yes.
He owned 2 million acres of land, and 60,000 tenant farmers had to come and act like
Work.
peasant serfs.
Mhm.
Once a year they owed him a day's labor and had to bring so many bushels of corn to his barn.
It happened also around Woodstock. We still have
Oh,
signs all over this part of the country.
Sure, all up and down the Hudson Valley, right
Yeah.
from Dutchess County up to Albany, and as far west as the Delaware
Mhm.
River, Delhi and all that. But they had the words, oh, the sheriff came in the dead of night, the moon was shining silver bright, but high on a hill an Indian stood, and he blew his tin horn through the wood. Get out the way, Big Bill Snyder, we'll tar your coat and feather your hide, sir. Get out the way, Big Bill Snyder, we'll tar your coat and feather your hide, sir. And the song was probably had new verses made up to it as new things took place.
They probably did too, Tower, nothing.
Well, it was a very bitter time.
But they're quite violent too at one point.
It ended up with most
People
of
killed.
the leaders were in jail. The jail at Delhi had something like 300 farmers in it. It was just they filled the whole courthouse.
But they finally got what they wanted, didn't
Yeah,
they? They won their case.
they won their case. However, in an interesting way, it's the leaders were in jail and everybody thought the cause was lost. But because they put up a battle, they got some publicity.
Mhm.
And you know, I was thinking the other day you could paraphrase Jefferson's statement. You say, "Eternal publicity is the price of liberty." But the fact is that the next governor was elected with a plank in his platform to get rid of the particular part of the New York State Constitution which made it possible for these big landlords to exist. And so they changed the New York State Constitution, and the leaders of the farmers were pardoned, let out of jail, and it all ended happily thanks to the struggle they put up. Why, there are now thousands of, and have been ever since then, thousands of independent farmers in the Hudson Valley. Exactly the same thing, happened in Tennessee a few years later. Not a few years, about 50 years later.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever hear the story of the Coal Creek Rebellion?
Oh yes, that's about the miners.
There's a good song about that too. As a matter of fact, it's on another one of my records. It's called "Buddy, Won't You Roll Down the Line." Come to think of it, wait, instead of playing my record of it, play it the record of old Uncle Dave Macon. He died at the age of 80 a few years back. He used to sing on the Grand Ole Opry out of Nashville, Tennessee, and when I was just learning banjo, I used to listen to his records by the hour and the day and the week. He must have been a wonderful person with a real love of life. He'd clown and shout and dance. This was one of the songs he learned back when he was a young man in Tennessee. Buddy, won't you roll down the line? Way back yonder in Tennessee, they leased the convicts out, put them working in the mine against free labor stout. Free labor rebelled against it, to win it took some time, but when the lease was in effect, they made him rise and shine. Buddy, won't you roll down the line? Buddy, won't you roll down the line? Yonder come my darling, coming down the line. Buddy, won't you roll down the line? Buddy, won't you roll down the line? Yonder come my darling, coming down the line. Early Monday morning, they get you up on time, send you down to Lone Rock just to look into that mine. Send you down to Lone Rock just to look into that hole. Very next thing the captain says, you better get your coal. Buddy, won't you roll down the line? Buddy, won't you roll down the line? Yonder come my darling, coming down the line. Buddy, won't you roll down the line? Buddy, won't you roll down the line? Yonder come my darling, coming down the line. Oh, the beans, they are half done, the bread is not so well, the meat, it is all burnt up, and the coffee's black as heck. But when you get your task done, and on the floor you fall, anything you get to eat would taste good done or raw. Buddy, won't you roll down the line? Buddy, won't you roll down the line? Yonder come my darling, coming down the line. Buddy, won't you roll down the line? Buddy, won't you roll down the line? Yonder come my darling, coming down the line.
What is the whole story about?
Well, when I first heard that record of Uncle Dave's, I didn't know myself. And a friend of mine in Tennessee did a thesis for it when he was in college, telling about the Coal Creek Rebellion. 1892, the miners in southern Tennessee were trying to organize in the Knights of Labor. And the company, the Tennessee Coal and Iron Company, it's owned by some banks in Wall Street, I think. I'm not sure. In fact, I'm pretty sure it is. It's a northern-owned company. They made a deal with the governor of Tennessee to bring in convict labor. They'd pay the state $5, $10 per man, and the company would put them up in big barracks with guards, and then lead them under guard into the mines to work the mines. Well, the miners, the regular miners, said, now how can we organize with these scabs being prepared to take over the mines as soon as we go out on strike? And they petitioned the governor. The governor didn't pay any attention to their petitions. Finally, this is Tennessee in 1892, remember, and many of them were veterans of the Civil War, and they all had rifles. Everybody did in those days. They walked down one dark night to the prison stockade, and at gunpoint they demanded the warden free all the prisoners. And they burnt the stockade down, took the prisoners in their own homes, and gave them civilian clothing and helped them escape across the state border. For 4 years, there was a running guerrilla warfare between the state of Tennessee and that whole area. I think it encompassed several counties and several mines and several different groups of prisoners. Some of the battles had as many as 2,000 or 3,000 people shooting at each other. Usually the miners up in the hills and the state militia shooting from the railroad trains which they came down on. Eventually the miners were starved into submission, and their leaders were in jail or in flight for their lives, and it looked like they'd lost the battle exactly as the farmers had. But once again, because they put up a battle, publicity again, and many people throughout the rest of the state who hadn't even realized that there was such a thing as convict labor were made aware of it, and the next governor was elected with a plank in his platform to get rid of the system of convict labor. And so around 1896, the convict labor system was revoked in Tennessee, whereas in Alabama, where no struggle was put up, they had convicts in the mines as late as 1915. There was another quite a famous little banjo piece made up at the time. They called it the Coal Creek March.
And I think I've heard that one.
Well, some players used to put in it the imitation of rifle shots and bugles playing and dogs barking.
Fencing it up.
But as I heard it, it was played by a carpenter in southern Ohio. He used to live in Kentucky, but he moved up to Ohio, where he lives now. Oh, a wonderful old man. His name is Pete Seeger. I try and play the piece the way he does, although no one will ever beat the performance he did for the Library of Congress Folk Song Archives about 20 years ago, playing this record. But here's the way I play Coal Creek March.
Thank you very much, Pete Seeger. It was really a pleasure to have you here today. And I hope you'll win your case. Like the farmers, like the miners, publicity could be made around you. I don't think you really need publicity, but still, I think, I just hope you win,
Well,
that's all.
it's not just my case, it's the only reason we are trying to see this thing through is that we think it's important for America to
be more aware of its freedom and its liberties. I think it is important.
I'd like to see some of the letters you get as a result of this program.
That might be the end of the program, you know. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised at all.